The stars shone coldly in the view screen as Commander Olivia Harper stared out into the darkness of space. The command center of Earth's orbital defense station hummed with quiet activity around her. 5 years had passed since the end of the Galactic Purge, a war that had torn apart hundreds of worlds while Earth watched from a distance. "Another report from the outer colonies, Commander," said Lieutenant Peter Johnson, his voice tight with worry as he handed her a digital tablet. Olivia's eyes narrowed as she read the message. 3 more human settlements had gone silent in the past week. No distress calls, no evacuation notices, just silence. "That makes 12 colonies in total," she said. "And still the Zavarians claim it's just pirate activity." "Do you believe them?" Peter asked. Olivia handed the tablet back to him. "No, I don't." Earth had stayed neutral during the Galactic Purge. While the Zavarian hegemony fought against the Altarian alliance, humanity had kept to its own solar system, building its cities, expanding to Mars and the moons of Jupiter, and mining the asteroid belt. The aliens had seen Earth as an unimportant backwater planet, too primitive to be a threat or an ally. That was what Earth had wanted them to think. Olivia walked to the large map of known space displayed on the main wall. Red dots marked the locations of the silent colonies. They formed a pattern, moving steadily closer to Earth. "Get me a secure line to Mars, Command," she ordered. 5 minutes later, the stern face of Major William Foster appeared on the screen. The Mars Defense Complex served as humanity's military headquarters, hidden beneath the red planet's surface. "Commander Harper," Foster said with a nod. "I take it you've seen the reports." "Yes, sir. The Zavarians are moving toward us, just as you predicted." Foster's expression darkened. The war never ended for them. The Altarians were just the first phase. Now they're cleaning up the smaller species before anyone can form new alliances. "Should we activate the fleet?" Olivia asked. "Not yet. President Becker wants to be certain before we show our hand." Foster rubbed his gray beard. "We've spent 10 years building our forces in secret. We can't waste the element of surprise." Olivia glanced at the view screen showing Earth below them, blue and peaceful. 7 billion people who had no idea what was coming. "With respect, sir, how many more colonies need to go silent before we're certain?" Before Foster could answer, an alarm blared through the command center. Lieutenant Johnson rushed to his console. "Commander, we're picking up a transmission from Proxima Centauri." "Put it through," Olivia ordered. The screen flickered, showing the dust-covered face of a man in a torn uniform. Behind him, people huddled in what looked like a bunker. "This is Engineer Nicholas Mason, Proxima Colony," the man said, his voice breaking with static. "We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack." "This is Commander Harper, Earth Defense. What's your situation?" "The Zavarians came without warning," Mason said. "They said our colony violated their new border regulations. When our governor protested, they opened fire. We have survivors in the mine shafts, but they're hunting us down. Hold position. We'll send help," Olivia said, though she knew any rescue would take days to arrive. "There's more," Mason continued. "We found Zavarian battle plans in their crashed shuttle. Earth is next, Commander. They're coming for all of us." The transmission cut off abruptly. Olivia turned to see Major Foster still on the other screen, his face grim. "You heard that?" she asked. Foster nodded. "I did. I'm contacting the President now." He paused, then added, "It's time to activate Project Phoenix." Olivia felt a chill. Project Phoenix was the code name for humanity's hidden fleet. Hundreds of warships built in secret during the long years of the Galactic Purge. "The Zavarians think the war is over," Foster said. "They're about to learn it's just beginning." The ice moon Europa gleamed like a pearl in the darkness of space. Deep beneath its frozen surface, Admiral Frank Martinez walked through a massive underground hangar. Around him stretched row after row of warships, their hulls gleaming under the bright lights. Engineers and crew members moved between the vessels, making final preparations. "Beautiful," aren't they?" Martine said to the woman walking beside him. "Lieutenants," Samantha Reed nodded. "Hard to believe we built all this without the Zavarians noticing." "That was the point," Martines replied. "While they fought the Altarians, we watched and learned. Every battle debris we collected taught us something new." For 10 years, humanity had gathered technology from both sides of the galactic purge. Fallen ships that drifted into the solar system became treasure troves of alien science. Earth's scientists worked day and night to understand and improve upon these discoveries. "The latest data from the fallen colonies," Samantha said, handing Martines a tablet. "I've analyzed the attack patterns." Martine had studied the information, his expression growing darker with each swipe of the screen. "These aren't random attacks or pirate raids," he said finally. "No, sir. The Zavarians are using a scorched earth strategy. They're eliminating all potential resistance before moving to their next target." "And their next target is us," Martine had finished. They reached the largest ship in the hangar, a massive vessel with the words EDF Defiance painted on its hull. The Earth Defense Fleet's flagship stood ready, its weapon systems far more advanced than anything the Zavarians would expect from primitive humans. Martinez's communicator beeped. "Admiral, we're receiving a priority transmission from Mars Command." On the small screen, Major Foster's face appeared. "Admiral, Project Phoenix is now active. President Becker has authorized deployment of the fleet. The Proxima colony is under attack, and we have confirmation that Earth is next." "Understood," Martine said. "How long do we have?" "Intelligence suggests 3 days before their main force reaches our system." Martinez looked up at the waiting fleet. "We'll be ready in 12 hours." On the distant world of Proxima Centauri, Nicholas Mason crawled through a narrow maintenance tunnel. The sounds of Zavarian soldiers echoed through the colony's underground shelters. They were getting closer. Mason reached a small room where the damaged quantum communicator sat. It was humanity's fastest method of communication, able to send messages instantly across light years. The Zavarians had targeted it first in their attack, but they hadn't found the backup system. With shaking hands, Mason connected the final wires. The machine hummed to life, its screen flickering. "Please work," he whispered. The face of Diane Wilkins, communications officer at Earth Defense Command, appeared on the screen. "This is Earth Defense. Identify yourself," she said. "Diane? It's Nick Mason from Proxima Colony." Her eyes widened. "Nick? We thought everyone on Proxima was dead." "Not dead," Mason replied grimly. "But we will be soon unless Earth sends help. The Zavarians are coming back to finish what they started." A crash sounded from outside the room. The Zavarians were breaking through the main doors of the shelter. "I don't have much time," Mason said quickly. "We captured data from their systems. They think Earth is defenseless. They have no idea what you've built. Help is coming, Nick," Diane promised. "The fleet is mobilizing now." Mason's laugh was bitter. "They'll be too late for us. But listen carefully. The Zavarians have a weakness. Their ships are linked through a psychic network. Their commanders control their forces through this link. Disrupt it, and..." The door to the communications room burst open. Mason saw the tall, scaled form of a Zavarian soldier before the screen went black. Back on Earth, the Defense Council gathered in their underground chamber. President Allison Becker stood before them, her face resolute. "For 10 years, we prepared while others fought," she said. "We hoped to avoid this conflict, but that choice has been taken from us." The screens around the room showed the Earth Defense Fleet rising from hidden bases on Europa, Mars, and the asteroid belt. Hundreds of ships moved into formation, their weapons charged. "The Zavarians believe they've won their war," President Becker continued. "They believe we are weak, primitive, easy prey." She paused, looking at each council member in turn. "It's time to show them how wrong they are." The Earth Defense Council room was filled with tension. Military officers and government officials sat around the large table, their faces grave as they discussed their options. "We should try to talk to them first," said Secretary Alan Douglas. "Maybe we can reach an agreement." General Joseph Winters shook his head. "The Zavarians destroyed 12 of our colonies without warning. They don't want to talk." "The general is right," said Admiral Martinez. "Our advantage is surprise. The Zavarians think we're primitive and defenseless. They don't know about our fleet or our technology." President Becker listened to all sides before speaking. "We need more information before committing our full forces. We'll send a small team to gather intelligence." She turned to the screen showing Captain Gregory Butler. He stood on the bridge of his ship, the EDF Resilient, a stealth destroyer designed to slip past enemy sensors. "Captain Butler, take your ship and 3 others to the Zavarian outpost near Alpha Centauri. Find out what they're planning and what forces they have." Butler nodded. "Yes, Madam President. We'll leave immediately." 2 days later, the EDF Resilient and its small task force drifted silently near the Zavarian outpost. The 4 human ships used technology that bent light around their hulls, making them nearly invisible to sensors. On the bridge, Butler looked at the outpost through the view screen. It was much larger than their intelligence had suggested. "That's not just an outpost," said his second-in-command, Lieutenant Rose Garcia. "That's a staging area for an invasion." Butler watched as dozens of Zavarian warships moved around the station. Supply ships came and went, loading weapons and troops. "Scan those ships," Butler ordered. "Find out what they're carrying." The ship's AI processed the sensor data. "Captain, those vessels are loaded with ground invasion forces and planetary bombardment weapons. Their course calculations are aimed directly at the Sol system." Butler's face hardened. "They're planning to attack Earth, and soon." He turned to his communications officer. "Send everything we're seeing back to Earth Command. Then alert the other ships. We're changing our mission." "Sir?" the officer asked. "We came here to observe," Butler said. "But now we need to slow them down. We're going to hit that supply station, and as many ships as we can before they realize what's happening." The task force moved silently into position. The 4 human ships were outnumbered 10-1, but they had surprise on their side. "Weapons ready," Butler said. "Target their fuel storage and ammunition depots. Fire when ready." The EDF Resilient fired first. Bright energy beams shot from its weapons, striking the Zavarian station with pinpoint accuracy. Explosions blossomed across the structure as fuel tanks and weapon stockpiles detonated. The other human ships joined in, their weapons tearing through the unprepared Zavarian vessels. The aliens scrambled to respond, but by the time they realized what was happening, half their ships were damaged or destroyed. "They're organizing a counterattack," Lieutenant Garcia warned as the remaining Zavarian ships turned to face them. "Begin retreat pattern," Butler ordered. "We've done what we came to do." The human ships turned and accelerated away, their engines pushing them faster than the Zavarian vessels could follow. Several enemy ships tried to give chase but couldn't match the speed of the Earth vessels. Back on Earth, President Becker watched the battle footage with the Defense Council. The human ships had performed beyond expectations, their weapons cutting through Zavarian shields as if they weren't there. "How is this possible?" Secretary Douglas asked. "Their technology was supposed to be far beyond ours. For 10 years, we studied their debris and captured technology," General Winters explained. "We didn't just copy it, we improved it. Our scientists found weaknesses in their designs and fixed them in ours." President Becker stood up. "This was just the beginning. The Zavarians will be coming in force now. We need to prepare the full fleet." She turned to face the large window overlooking Washington, D.C. soon. She would need to tell the people of Earth what was coming. "For a decade, we have prepared while others fought." She practiced her speech quietly. "We hope to avoid this conflict, but make no mistake, humanity will not go quietly into the night." News of the human victory spread quickly across the stars. On the Altarian homeworld, Resistance leader Thelnar watched a smuggled recording of the battle. The tall, blue-skinned alien's eyes widened as she saw the human ships tear through Zavarian defenses. "Is this real?" she asked her aide. "Yes, leader. The humans destroyed half the Zavarian fleet at Alpha Centauri before escaping without losses." Thelnar stood up, hope filling her heart for the first time in years. The Altarian civilization had once been proud and advanced, but the war with the Zavarians had left them broken and conquered. "The humans have done what we could not," she told her small group of resistance fighters. "They've proven the hegemony can be defeated." Far away, on a diplomatic ship traveling between stars, Major Tina Russell led a mission to contact the former Altarian worlds. Earth needed allies in the coming fight, and the Altarians had the most reason to hate the Zavarians. The human ship landed on Altaria Prime, once the jewel of the Alliance. Now, the great cities lay in ruins, with Zavarian control towers looming over the broken buildings. Russell and her team were led to an underground meeting room, where the remaining Altarian leaders had gathered. They looked thin and tired, their once bright skin now dull with despair. "We come seeking alliance against our common enemy," Russell told them. "Earth stands ready to fight the Zavarians, but we would be stronger together." An elderly Altarian stepped forward. "You ask us to fight. Look around you, human. Our military was destroyed. Our people starve. What can we offer you?" Russell's voice was gentle but firm. "We don't ask you to fight for us. We ask to fight alongside you. For all our futures. We bring weapons, food, and hope." She activated a hologram showing Earth's fleet. The Altarians gasped at the size and number of the ships. "How did you build all this without the Zavarians knowing?" the elder asked. "While they fought you, we watched and learned," Russell explained. "We took advantage of being seen as primitive. The Zavarians never considered us a threat, so they never looked closely at what we were doing." In the Zavarian capital world, High Commander Vaxel raged at his generals. The tall, scaled alien paced back and forth, his tail lashing in anger. "How could primitive humans defeat our best ships?" he demanded. "We underestimated them, High Commander," one general admitted. "Their technology is far more advanced than our reports indicated." "Then our reports were wrong," Vaxel snarled. He pointed at the officers who had survived the battle. "You are all demoted. I will take personal command of the response fleet." He turned to the star map showing the human home system. "This species has been allowed to develop unchecked for too long. We will not underestimate them again." On the mining colony of Ceres in the asteroid belt, civilian contractor Adam Michaels monitored the deep space sensors. His shift had been quiet until strange readings appeared on his screen. "That can't be right," he muttered, adjusting the sensors. The readings remained the same. Something huge had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. Then another, and another. Adam's hands shook as he hit the emergency alert button. "This is Ceres Station to Earth Defense Command. Multiple large objects detected entering the system from the outer boundary. Hundreds of them." Back on Earth, Admiral Martinez received the alert while meeting with President Becker. His face grew pale as he read the report. "Madam President, the Zavarians have arrived. Their fleet is 3 times larger than our intelligence suggested." President Becker took a deep breath. "How long until they reach Earth?" "At their current speed, 3 days." Becker nodded firmly. "Then we have 3 days to prepare. Deploy the fleet. Activate all planetary defenses. And send word to Major Russell to hurry with those allies." Martinez saluted and left to carry out his orders. Becker turned to look out the window at the clear blue sky. Soon, that sky would be filled with fire as the greatest battle in human history began. "They think this will be easy," she whispered. "They're about to learn how wrong they are." Space around Saturn turned into a battlefield. The rings of the great planet glowed with explosions as human and Zavarian ships fired at each other. Earth's home fleet moved in careful formation, each ship protecting the others as they faced the much larger enemy force. From her command post on the orbital defense platform Saturn 7, Colonel Patricia Lane watched the battle unfold. Her screen showed hundreds of Zavarian vessels pushing toward Earth. "They still outnumber us 3-1, her second-in-command said nervously. "Numbers aren't everything," Patricia replied. "They still think this is about conquering us. They don't understand that humans don't fight to win. We fight to survive." The Earth ships used the rings of Saturn for cover, hiding behind the ice and rock before darting out to fire at passing Zavarian vessels. The aliens grew frustrated with these hit-and-run tactics and pushed forward more aggressively. "They're taking the bait," Patricia said with grim satisfaction. "Signal Admiral Martinez. It's time for the trap." As the main Zavarian fleet moved past Saturn, pursuing what they thought were retreating human ships, Patricia gave the order, "Activate all platforms." Around Saturn, dozens of hidden defense platforms powered up. These automated weapons stations had been disguised as small moons or mining outposts. Now they revealed their true purpose, opening fire on the exposed rear of the Zavarian fleet. Caught between the platforms and the human ships that suddenly turned to attack, the Zavarians found themselves in a deadly crossfire. On his flagship, Admiral Martinez watched the battle with careful eyes. "Send in the second wave," he ordered. From their hiding places in Jupiter's moons, a fresh group of human ships joined the fight. The Zavarians, already struggling against the first attack, now faced enemies on all sides. But the aliens were not easily defeated. High Commander Vaxel directed his forces with cruel efficiency. Though surprised by the human trap, he quickly adapted. "Focus fire on their largest ships," he commanded. "Break through to Earth at all costs." The battle grew fiercer. Human ships exploded under concentrated Zavarian fire, while alien vessels shattered from Earth's advanced weapons. The space between the planets became a graveyard of broken ships and lost lives. On Mars, Major William Foster activated the planet's hidden defense grid. What the Zavarians thought was a sparsely populated colony suddenly bristled with weapons. As part of the alien fleet approached Mars, they found themselves facing unexpected resistance. "All batteries, open fire," Foster ordered. The surface of Mars lit up as hundreds of laser arrays fired in unison. The first wave of Zavarian ships didn't even have time to raise their shields before they were destroyed. Back on Earth, President Becker received updates from all fronts in the war room beneath the White House. The news was mixed. The human fleet was fighting well, but the Zavarians' greater numbers were starting to tell. "We need our final surprise," she told her advisors. "Is the quantum disruptor ready?" Dr. Eric Daniels, Earth's leading expert on Zavarian technology, nodded. "Yes, Madam President, but we only have one chance. If it fails, we can't try again." Becker didn't hesitate. "Do it." Across the solar system, on a small station hidden in Earth's moon, scientists activated humanity's greatest secret weapon. The quantum disruptor sent out invisible waves that targeted the Zavarians' psychic network, the system they used to coordinate their attacks and communicate instantly across vast distances. The effect was immediate and devastating. Zavarian ships suddenly lost formation, their attacks becoming disorganized and confused. Some vessels fired on their own allies, while others simply drifted, their crews unable to function without the psychic guidance they depended on. "It's working," Martinez reported to Earth. "Their fleet is in chaos." But victory came with a price. Several damaged Zavarian ships, their navigation systems failing, plummeted toward Earth. Most burned up in the atmosphere, but 3 massive vessels crashed into the planet. One in the American Midwest, another in the Russian steppes, and a third in the Australian outback. President Becker watched the fiery trails of the falling ships with a heavy heart. The war had reached Earth itself. "They wanted a war," she said as she put on the ceremonial armor of the Earth Defense Forces. "Now they'll learn what happens when humanity fights back." 6 months passed since the Battle of Saturn. What started as a surprise attack had turned into a long war that people now called the Human-Zavarian War. Earth had survived the first assault, but the fight was far from over. On the main deck of the EDF Victory, Fleet Admiral Kevin Hayes stood before the gathered officers. Human soldiers stood side by side with Altarian warriors and representatives from 3 other alien species who had joined the alliance against the Zavarians. "Today we take the fight to enemy territory," Hayes told them, his voice strong and clear. "Today we show them that attacking Earth was the worst mistake they've ever made." The combined fleet jumped into faster-than-light travel, heading for the Zavarian fortress world of Vorax Prime. Over 1,000 ships moved together, the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. On the lead assault ship, Captain Laura Mitchell checked her powered armor one last time. Her troops would be the first to land on the planet's surface. Each soldier wore a suit that increased their strength and speed, with built-in weapons and shields. "Ready for drop in 5 minutes," the ship's AI announced. Laura looked at her soldiers, men and women prepared to fight on an alien world. Next to them stood their Altarian allies, tall blue-skinned warriors with their own advanced equipment. "The difference," she explained to the Altarian commander beside her, "is that they were fighting to conquer you. We're fighting because they tried to conquer us. Humans have a special kind of fury for that." The Altarian nodded in understanding. "Your people fight with remarkable determination. We are honored to fight alongside you." The dropships launched, streaming toward the planet below. Zavarian defenses fired into the sky, but the human ships were too fast, and too many to stop them all. Laura's ship landed hard on the surface. The doors opened, and she led her troops into battle. The Zavarians fought fiercely to defend their fortress, but they were surprised by the humans' tactics and technology. "Push forward to the command center," Laura ordered as her troops advanced through the alien city. Meanwhile, back on Earth, scientist Eric Daniels made an important discovery in his laboratory. For months, he had studied captured Zavarians, trying to understand why the quantum disruptor affected them so strongly. "They're not just psychically linked," he reported excitedly to his team. "Their entire neural structure depends on it. Sever the link completely, and their higher brain functions collapse." He sent his findings to the front lines immediately. This wasn't just a weakness in their communication, it was a fundamental vulnerability in the Zavarians themselves. As this intelligence reached the battle, Captain Mitchell changed her strategy. Rather than destroying Zavarian positions, her special forces teams began infiltrating them to plant small quantum disruptors. The results were devastating. Entire Zavarian units suddenly collapsed, their soldiers rendered helpless by the loss of their psychic network. Areas that would have taken days to capture fell in hours. By sunset on the alien world, the fortress that had withstood years of Altarian attacks was in human hands. Captain Mitchell stood on the central tower, watching as Alliance flags replaced Zavarian symbols. Her communicator beeped with an incoming message from Admiral Hayes. "Excellent work, Captain. The fall of Vorax Prime has sent shockwaves through the hegemony. Their other worlds are panicking." "What's our next target, sir?" Laura asked. "We've located 3 more Zavarian base worlds," Hayes replied. "Special Forces teams are already on their way to plant disruptors. But don't celebrate yet. This isn't victory. This is survival. There's a difference." Laura understood. Winning battles wasn't enough. The Zavarians had threatened humanity's existence, and Earth wouldn't be safe until the alien empire was completely defeated. On the Zavarian homeworld, High Commander Vaxol received reports of the disaster at Vorax Prime. His scales darkened with rage as he smashed the screen. "How are these humans doing this?" he demanded. They were nothing. A primitive species barely worth noticing. His scientist lowered his head fearfully. "They understand our psychic network now. They're using it against us." Vaxol turned to his inner circle. "Then we must accelerate our plans. Prepare the psychic amplifier. If we can't defeat the humans with conventional weapons, we will reshape their minds until they serve us willingly." The war entered its 2nd year. Humanity and its growing number of allies pushed deeper into Zavarian space. Planets that had lived under Zavarian rule for generations now rose up against their weakened masters. Lieutenant Jack Newman piloted his scout ship, the EDF horizon, through the debris of a recent battle. His mission was to search for any useful technology or information among the wreckage of a Zavarian command vessel. Picking up a data core, still intact, reported his sensor officer, Lisa Wells. It's in the forward section. Newman guided the ship closer. Let's grab it and get out of here. This area gives me the creeps. They used the ship's mechanical arm to pull the damaged data core from the wreckage. It was a cylinder about the size of a small car, covered in alien markings. Back at the human fleet's forward base, a captured Zavarian space station, Newman watched as technicians worked to access the data. Days passed before they finally broke through the security. What they found shocked everyone. "Get me Admiral Hayes," Newman said urgently after viewing the files. "He needs to see this now." When the Admiral arrived, Newman showed him the discovered records. "The Galactic Purge wasn't a natural conflict, sir. The Zavarians engineered the entire war." On the screens around them played recordings of Zavarian leaders planning and executing a complex scheme to turn the Altarians and other species against each other. They manipulated trade disputes, assassinated moderate leaders, and staged attacks to blame on other species, Newman explained. It was never about territory or resources. They wanted all potential rivals exhausted and divided, so they could easily conquer what remained. Admiral Hayes watched with growing anger. "Send this to every allied world immediately. Everyone needs to know what we're really fighting against." Meanwhile, the human-led alliance closed in on the Zavarian home system. 6 massive fleets approached from different directions, cutting off all escape routes. On his flyship, Hayes received a disturbing message from Earth intelligence. "Sir, our deep space sensors have detected unusual energy readings from the Zavarian homeworld," reported the communications officer. "What kind of readings?" Hayes asked. "They match what we know about their psychic technology, but thousands of times stronger than anything we've seen before." Hayes immediately called an emergency meeting with the Allied commanders. Scientists and intelligence officers presented their findings. "We believe High Commander Vaxol has built a massive psychic amplifier," explained Dr. Rachel Kent, the Alliance's leading expert on Zavarian technology. "Based on these readings, it could project their influence across the entire galaxy." "What does that mean exactly?" asked the Altarian commander. Dr. Kent's face was grim. "It means they could control the minds of every sentient being within range. Not just communication, but complete control, forcing other species to think and act as they command." A heavy silence fell over the room. This wasn't just about defeating an enemy anymore. It was about preserving the free will of every thinking being in the galaxy. Admiral Hayes contacted Earth. President Becker listened to the report with growing concern. "How long until this device is operational?" she asked. "Our best estimate is 3 days," Hayes replied. Becker didn't hesitate. "You have authorization for Operation Endgame." Operation Endgame was the most desperate plan humanity had ever conceived. A direct assault on the heavily defended Zavarian homeworld, with a small elite team to destroy the psychic amplifier before it could be activated. "Who will lead the ground team?" Hayes asked. "Major Olivia Harper," Becker answered. "She's been training for this possibility." On the Special Operations Ship EDF Shadow, Major Harper prepared her team. They were a mix of human special forces and elite warriors from allied species, each chosen for their resistance to psychic influence. "The mission is simple," Harper told them. "We drop to the surface, fight our way to the amplifier, and destroy it. Then we extract, if possible." A young soldier raised his hand. "And if extraction isn't possible?" Harper's face was calm. "Then we complete the mission anyway. We started this war fighting for our survival," she said. "Now we're fighting for the free will of every thinking being in the galaxy." As the EDF Shadow moved into position, hidden by its advanced stealth technology, Harper looked at the image of the Zavarian homeworld on her screen. Somewhere down there was High Commander Vaxol and his doomsday device. "Prepare for drop in 30 minutes, he ordered. The final battle was about to begin. The sky above the Zavarian homeworld blazed with light as the final battle began. The combined fleet of former enemies now fought side by side against their common threat. Human ships led the charge, drawing enemy fire while their allies moved into position. On the planet's surface, Major Olivia Harper led her team through the crowded streets of the alien capital. They wore special armor that changed color to match their surroundings, making them almost invisible as they moved. "The amplifier is 2 miles ahead," Harper told her team through their secure channel. "Stay low and move fast." With her were 12 humans and representatives from several alien species, including Thelinar, the Altarian resistance leader, who had insisted on joining the mission. "Your people fight like nothing I've ever seen," Thelinar told Harper as they paused behind a building, waiting for a Zavarian patrol to pass. "That's because we've been fighting ourselves for our entire history," Harper replied. "Everything we do, we learn the hard way." In orbit above them, Admiral Hayes directed the space battle from his flagship. Zavarian defenses were fierce, their remaining ships fighting desperately to protect their homeworld. Hayes' vessel took heavy damage, but he refused evacuation. "The difference between humans and Zavarians," he broadcast to the enemy fleet, "is that we know what it means to sacrifice." Harper's team reached the massive dome that housed the psychic amplifier. The building was ringed with guards and defense turrets. They couldn't approach undetected any longer. "Time for Plan B," Harper said. She nodded to their demolitions expert, who planted charges on a nearby power station. The explosion shook the ground and plunged the area into darkness. In the confusion, Harper's team rushed forward, their night vision giving them the advantage. They fought their way inside, losing 3 team members to Zavarian defenses. Each step toward the center of the complex grew harder as elite enemy guards converged on their position. "We're running out of time," called the Altarian scientists with them. "Energy readings are spiking. They're starting the activation sequence." Finally, they reached the heart of the facility, a vast chamber dominated by a crystal structure that pulsed with eerie light. Around it, Zavarian scientists worked frantically at control panels. Standing before the machine was High Commander Vax'il himself, protected by his personal guard. The tall, scaled alien turned as Harper's team burst into the room. "Kill them all," he ordered. The fighting was intense and close. Harper lost half her remaining team before they secured the room. She carried the quantum disruptor, their only hope of destroying the amplifier, toward the central crystal. Vax'il stepped into her path, drawing a curved blade that hummed with energy. "You cannot stop what we are," he told her, his voice low and threatening. "We are unity. We are perfection." "No," Harper replied, activating the disruptor. "You're just another bully, and humanity has never tolerated bullies." She threw the device at the crystal core. Vax'il leaped to intercept it, but Thelinar tackled him to the ground. The disruptor struck the crystal and activated. The effect was immediate. The psychic amplifier collapsed in on itself, sending feedback through the entire Zavarian network. Vax'il screamed as his mind was overwhelmed by the backlash. Across the galaxy, Zavarian forces faltered and fell. Harper helped Thelinar to her feet. "We need to get out of here. This whole place is coming down." Only 4 of the strike team survived to reach the extraction point, where an Allied ship waited to carry them to safety. As they lifted off, they watched the Zavarian capital fall into chaos below. 3 weeks later, representatives from 27 species gathered on Earth to form a new galactic council. The Altarian speaker addressed the assembly. "For 1,000 years, we thought ourselves the elder species, the wise ones who would guide younger races. We were wrong. The humans showed us what we have forgotten, that freedom is worth fighting for, and that determination can overcome any obstacle." Former General Joseph Winters, now Earth's ambassador, stood to respond. "We came late to the galactic community, but we brought with us the lessons of our troubled history. We know the price of war because we've paid it countless times, and we know that when threatened with extinction, humanity doesn't just survive. We prevail. As the newly formed alliance of free worlds took its first steps, one truth became clear to all. They thought the war was over. Then came the humanity.